on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. It's former Eagle, Super Bowl champion Barrett Brooks here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, BB?
Oh, you guys sick. Oh, poor Nick. You just got over stomach flu, huh?
Hey, I've avoided it.
I'm just messing with you. I was just sick. Hey, I'm going to tell you both of you guys. I was just sick all last week, man. So I feel you on it. I feel your pain. That's why I'm messing with you guys.
Hey, Barrett, I'll tell you. I had to do that. I did that broadcast actually on Sunday for 2 hours with that throbbing headache. I had my whole back was almost shot. I didn't eat anything all day. I don't know how I got through it. I'll tell you what.
I'm about the only person who avoided it somehow. I know Rich was out a couple of weeks ago. PT, Nick. I mean, somehow I've avoided it. But feeling good, getting ready for the playoffs here, Barrett. And I'll ask you, was Atlanta the team that you were hoping got to this point?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted them out of the other guys, simply because they're just so inconsistent, and they're just about as inconsistent as we are. So I feel as though that'll be the best matchup. I mean, they have all the weapons in the world, but they just not, hopefully they're not getting it together at the right time. Hopefully last week was an anomaly, and they didn't do it as good as they've been doing. I'm latching on to that fact and thinking that this Eagles team can make an advance to the championship round.
Why is Atlanta inconsistent? When you're watching this team that went to the Super Bowl last year, what is it about them that they got off to a weird 3-3 start, but they've played pretty well since that 3-3 start?
Well, you know what? They have a lot of drops. I mean, if you look at their games, they have drops in crucial situations, and they also have created a lot of penalties on the opposite side of the ball. Their defense is looking pretty good. It's hard for them to go out and stop a team that's going to try to physically dominate them, because they're such a small team, but they're fast, especially up front. You look at Brooks Reed and Vic Beasley. Those guys are like 250, 245 at defensive end. If you could run on the outside with those guys. But, other than that, they run great sideline to sideline. They're so fast that, they get to the pass. The pass that they'll throw are pretty fast. Quarterbacks fear them. So I think that's what makes them a good team. Other than that, it's tough for them to really go out and be consistent because they have so many penalties. They have so many drops. Kind of like us in all actuality.
Barrett Brooks on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline here, Eagles and Falcons. Let's pick your brain on the offensive line for Philly. Last year, they ran for over 200 yards against this Falcons team, which is smallish and similar. Is that the formula again this time around?
I'm hoping so. I really am hoping so. This team is a team that you don't want to get caught behind. You want to make sure you stay up on them, run the ball, pound the rock, keep their offense off the field so you don't give guys a chance to go out there and stretch the field with Jones and Sanu and those guys. Keep them off the field. You don't want them to get their running game going. You want them to stay off the field. So if this offense has to go out there, dictate the tempo, run where they want to run, and that's the biggest thing. That's what made this Eagles team good for those 9 games in a row that they won. They ran the ball when they wanted the ball. They ran the ball against a really good Denver defense. They were ranked number 1 against the run. They ran the ball well against them because they made their mind up. It's a different type of mindset. And I think that's the biggest thing they need to get back to, that mindset of running the rock, which actually put Carson in a lot better situations. They got to do the same thing for Nick Foles. Establish that run, give him a little bit of time because now they can run play action with it. And play action is nothing but a sounder gap protection type of offense that you run. It leaves people in to help block like the tight end and a running back so you can stretch the ball down the field. Then you can get that little more of a second because you have guys in there that can block. So play action is the way to go, and the only way you can do that is if they run the ball consistently.
Now, Barrett, Doug Peterson has said multiple times that the offense really does not change with Nick Foles back there despite not having Carson Wentz. But, everybody wants to say the running game is key to this game, running game and great defense. Are they really going to open it up this weekend still with the passing game, or do you actually think this is finally the week where they're going to stick to the running game and then open up the passing game, or you think they still might just air it out with Nick Foles hoping to win this game that way as well?
Well, the biggest thing is, to be honest, Doug has a lot of confidence in Nick Foles' ability to throw the ball, and that's the biggest thing. He trusts Nick to be able to go out there and get the ball out of his hands, and that's almost to a detriment to the team. He has to understand if he runs the ball, it doesn't matter who you have back there at quarterback. You should consistently run the ball, even when they're trying to stop you, that you can have success. a lot of times these last 2 or 3 games, it wasn't necessarily that they couldn't run the ball, is that they made a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties that would put them 2nd and 10, holding calls, jumping off sides, a lot of penalties, missing blocks, throwing on first downs. Those were all things you can't do to be consistent, to stay on the field. This is a rhythm-based type of offense. Maybe they go back and look at the film, saw what Nick Foles did back then, and maybe they do go in with a quick tempo. If they do that, I'm cool with that. Just as long as they sprinkle run in with it. They got to run the ball, establish a run. If you could do that, it'll make things a lot more comfortable for not only their left tackle, but for Nick Foles in the backfield.
Now, what Nick Foles are we going to get? I know we saw one against the Giants where he went off 4 touchdowns, played out of his mind. Then you see the one in the last 2 weeks where he doesn't play well at all. I mean, do we see one of those versions of Nick Foles on Saturday, or do we kind of get the one that's going to be right in the middle?
Well, you know what? I'll take the one that's right in the middle, but it's all dictated on our ability to not have these penalties, man. I mean, we don't really put a lot of credence on the fact that they've had so many penalties. We kind of looked at it as, all right, the offense is just sputtering. No, those penalties in crucial situations are killing us right now. And we have to understand that Nick Foles is a good quarterback when things are on time. Allow him to go up there and dictate the tempo. Allow him to play that fast-paced offense. He can pre-read stuff a little better if he's forcing the issue. I don't think he plays as well on a slowed down pace. I think he needs that up-tempo type of play for him to shine. And some quarterbacks are like that. Some quarterbacks can't run it. He's one of the few that can run an up-tempo system. So he can get the ball out of his hands, a quick 3-step drop, a quick 5-step drop, get the ball out of his hands, keep those chains moving, and then he gets comfortable in the game. If he starts out rocky, then he tends to stick with being rocky the rest of the game. If he goes in there with a tempo that he's dictating, then he gets better as the game goes on.
Hey, Barrett, when you watch the tape of Foles these last couple of weeks, what concerns you? I mean, why was he what was he doing that was causing him to struggle and to look like, he was not competent?
Well, great question, man. And people aren't really looking at the film. And if you compare the film from Carson last year, kind of the same thing. When you don't go through the proper mechanics, the ball tends to sail on you. And if you look through it, he wasn't stepping through any of his passes. He was using his arm to throw instead of just using his technique, driving the hip through, stepping through, and delivering the ball as opposed to just trying to sling it. You tend to overthrow balls. You tend to throw inaccurate balls. He's got to go back to basic fundamentals, get his footwork right. Stop going out there and being a lumbering type of thrower. He's got to make sure that he gets everything dialed in, that his footsteps are correct, that his body motions are correct, steps through with the pass, drive the ball out of his hands, that's supposed to floating it out of his hands, and things will be a lot better for him. That's why when he first came in for Nick in the Rams game, he was good because he had the technique. He had been going through it. I think he got away from it a little bit. Thought that he can just go out there and dictate the game. You can't do that. You got to go back to fundamentals.
So let me ask you this then. There was a lot. He played that game against Dallas. They pulled him out. And then he has the bye week here, so he's not playing again. So he's still doesn't have a lot of game action. But is it better that he got a chance to sit and watch film as opposed to being out there and playing again?
Well, you can self-correct, man. He's going to go out there and make his own adjustments. He sees what he was doing. He sees that he wasn't stepping through with the pass, but also others around him see that what they were doing also. The fact that Big D was getting beat on his technique not being sound, he's going back to basics also. Everybody has to go back to basics. When you watch film, really be truly sound in what you're doing and seeing what you're not doing, then you can go in and focus a little more. Now during game time situations, all right, I saw what I was doing before. Let me get back to doing this. I saw that I did this last time. Well, let me do it this way this time, and things will get a lot better for you. You got to make sure you're sound, man. I mean, people don't understand football is football is football. The same plays you run in Pop Warner football, high school football, college football are virtually the same plays you play in the NFL. All the drills are the same. You just got to refine it. When you get the best athletes in the world, if you don't have sound fundamentals, this is all for naught. And I think that's what's wrong with him right now. If you watch the games, just go back and watch the earlier. Watch the Giants game, then watch the Raiders game. Look the technique.
Yeah.
Watch how his arm throwing instead of driving through.
Well, I'd like to see more of, Barrett, is Foles, when they talked about going back to watch the tape in 2013, and a lot of that was, Riley Cooper was a big guy. He threw it up, and he let Riley go up and make plays. He did the same with Deshaun, where he just let Deshaun Jackson go run after the ball. You got Alshon Jeffrey. Let's see him air it and let Alshon be the guy that makes the play, not Nick. Make Alshon make the play. Those 50-50 balls. Let's see a little bit more of that like he did in 2013, more so than asking him to be precise.
No question. And that's a big thing, man. That's the only way Alshon is going to be productive. It took Carson a long time to really get to see that. All right, if I just throw it up there, let him give him a chance to go out there and make a play, as opposed to thinking you got to throw it dead on. He's never going to have separation. He's never going to be wide open. His being covered is the same as him being open. Now he can use his 6'3" frame and go get the ball, as opposed to, what has been going on before. Nick has to stop thinking that he has to be open for him to throw it to him. He's got to throw it to him even though he's covered, because now he can go make a play. Now, that's the only way that you can play with a guy like Alshon. He's not going to get the separation that a Nelson Aguilar. Nelson's going to be open. Nelson gets that separation. Zach Ertz gets that separation. He doesn't. He doesn't want that separation. He wants to feel what the guy is and use his body in his frame to post up on him and go get the ball. And that's the only way he can be successful. I'm sure they talked about that a lot going into these this week and a half that they've had off. They're going to go out there and make sure that they get that timing right and understanding the back shoulder throw to him is going to be a major pass for him, because he can post up and get guys out of the way and go get it.
Now, you also mentioned, Barrett, when you look at the Falcons, especially on tape, they have a pretty good pass rush. What is a way for Nick Foles to be able to exploit the Falcons' pass rush? Because it seems like Atlanta they live and die by their pass rush, and it's a big key for them to winning games if their offense isn't clicking. But what is a way for Nick Foles to actually exploit that and help this Eagles offense move around with against the Falcons this weekend?
Well, they're going to have to run a couple draw plays, understanding that their pass rush is going to get up the field, saying the thing that teams do against our defense. Run draw plays, run screen plays, get the ball up underneath their pass rush, that separation that comes between the defensive line and the linebackers, and work the middle of the field right there. It's going to be a big game for a guy like Zach Ertz and Nelson Aguilar. They've got to make sure that they cover the inside of that field and allow Foles to get the ball out of his hand quick. A lot of slant routes, a lot of angle routes that they can just go out there, sit down in the zone, and go. This is a cover 3 team that they're going to play against, and the seams are going to be open all day. And what do teams like to do when you got the seam open? Throw to the tight end, throw to the slot receiver. They've got to use those guys a lot in this game.
Yeah, those are two guys I brought up yesterday. Aguilar has kind of become the big play guy on this team. Another thing, too, Andy was when he had Westbrook, I guess it helps, but they were a big screen team. They're not as big in the screen game. Is that because they don't have the personnel?
Well, it was. When they had Sproles here, they could run screens. I think they see a little screen runner in the rookie. If they can get Clement going in that screen game and it not be obvious when he comes in, then they can run it. It's hard because they got these 3 backs and they kind of pitch and hold them into certain plays. I think with Ajayi coming in now and going to be that featured back, a guy that can get some consistency going, you're not going to know what's going on, because he runs all 3 facets of the game well. The pass game, the run game, and the screen game. He does well with those facets. He can run outside, he can run inside, he can run those type of screens. He's the all-purpose back that they needed.
Yeah.
They're going to have to run him a lot more, and he's got to do a lot more. I think he needs at least 20 to 22 carries a game, even though they haven't had a running back over 18 carries in the game.
Yep.
He's going to have to do it this game and in this playoffs. They want to be successful, because they're tipping their hat too much when they have these guys coming in like they do.
Well, Ajayi has seen Atlanta this year. He ran the ball 25 times for 130 yards against these guys. I guess if I'm Jay, I got to go to coach and say, yo, this is what we did in Miami, and it worked pretty darn good because I had lanes everywhere.
Well, exactly, and that's what it is. When you have a smaller defense like that, they run so fast, they run themselves out of plays, and they create holes just from their speed that they have that from the backside. So they're going to have a lot of cutback lanes, a lot of opportunity to get these guys on different levels, which creates lanes. So if they go out there and run the ball, especially with Ajayi, has the success to get them, knows where the holes are going to be at, it's going to tend for them to be a lot more on time as far as when they're running their offense. And that's the biggest thing. They have to stay on time. They have to stay consistent and run the ball like they did last year.
Hey, the Rams ran the ball very successfully against Atlanta. They kind of got away from it there. So it seems that running the ball could be the big blueprint here. But when you flip over to the defensive side of the ball, the Eagles should be able to get to Matt Ryan. They really got to him the last time they played the game in Philly. Ryan did not play well last year when they were here, but Julio Jones is probably, of the potential matchups, Jones is the biggest problem for this Eagles secondary, but it might be the best matchup for their defensive front. So it's an interesting dynamic there.
Well, you know what? I think that our DBs played better against big receivers. Look at the Carolina game. They played well against big receivers. Function, they had a pretty good game against them. Benjamin was there. The big guys. They play well against them. Those small scat receivers is what they have a problem with. So I think they'll match up well with them. They have DBs that could match up with them. The thing is, I really think they got to make sure they get a pass rush on Matty X, because once he gets uncomfortable, he throws the ball everywhere. He's a train wreck, and they're going to have to hit him a little bit in order for him to understand, all right, I was right here. And it's not always them coming in and sacking him, but just before the play is over with, he walked by and said, hey, I was right there. Just tap him on the shoulder. I'm right here. I'm right here. Then they start seeing ghosts, and he's one of those guys, once he starts seeing ghosts, he becomes very inconsistent. So if you hit him a couple of times, let him know you're there, it'll bode well for this defense. And I really think that BG has to have a huge game come Saturday, a huge game. He's going to have to be an impact player for the team to have some success on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, Barrett, the secondary has held up for most of the season, but they've seen a couple of their struggles come out into the light the past couple of weeks. But when you look at who's going to match up with who in this game on Saturday, does Jalen Mills or Ronald Darby, do they match up with Julio Jones? I mean, who matches up with who?
The last time these two teams played, Schwartz didn't send somebody with Julio. They just let him go wherever. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Do you think that? I mean, do you think that that's going to be the same thing as they did last year? Or do you think Schwartz might actually switch it up and say, "Hey, Ronald, we're going to need you to follow Julio the entire game"?
Well, he's not really a matchup guy. I mean, if anybody, I would put the rookie on him. If you put the rookie on him, he's got some pretty good size, and he can.
Rasul.
He's been playing pretty well. Rasul Douglas is a big frame guy also, but I don't think they're going to do that. He's not a matchup guy. He wants his horses up front to rush the passer, and then in the secondary, these guys will do well. Just hopefully they don't get this slant and go going. That sluggo route kills them, but they're very, very aggressive. They're going to jump on those type of passes. Sometimes make you laugh, make you cry. I don't mind them being aggressive like that. You're going to get beat sometimes, but their ability to watch film just like everybody else is, hopefully they see certain times where they understand they're going to do it, and they pick the right time to jump those type of passes. This is going to be a secondary that I think will play well against these bigger receivers. They'll put their hands on them. They'll be able to run with them, like I said. So, I think Jalen Mills and those guys are going to do pretty well against this offense.
Now, Atlanta, I mean, they have two good running backs in Freeman and Coleman, but if the Eagles can shut them down and make Atlanta one-dimensional in the passing game, and I get that's where they thrive, does that make it a big advantage for the Eagles if they force Atlanta to beat them with the passing game all day rather than balance it out with their two good running backs?
Well, yesterday I had a chance to interview Curry yesterday, and that's all he said. I mean, every other sentence was, all right, make them one-dimensional, stop the run. And they're going to have to do it with only two linebackers because at this point, they're going to have to play a lot of 11 personnel. They play a lot of 11 personnel on that side of the ball, which is one running back and one tight end, which means there's going to be a lot of nickel in the game. So you're going to ask Malcolm Jenkins, guys like that to come in and fill on the run plays. You're going to have a linebacker out. So this is going to be one of those games with those front four up there, going to have to play big, and another guy's going to have to play big, Michael Kendricks. He's going to have to make some impact tackles and tackles behind the line of scrimmage to get him out the run, to force him to pass. So those four guys up front and Michael Kendricks are going to have to play big in order for this defense to have some success during this game on Saturday.
Barrett Brooks here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Barrett, while we got you, behind us, John Gruden is having his press conference here. You played for Coach Gruden in your time in Philly. He was the offensive coordinator. Now, you've told us a lot of stories about him, but 10 years, $100 million. Will the Raiders get the ROI, return on investment, for that money?
Well, you know what? I think so. I mean, this guy's a genius, and he was never far from the game anyways. In fact, a lot of teams call him and try to ask for his expertise. He is a genius as far as his pass plays and things of that nature. He's going to have a pretty good staff around him. With the amount of money they're paying him, he's going to have to go out there and pay some results and dividends. $100 million, that's all guaranteed when you're a coach. Just put it like that. So, I mean, if they have that much if they have much trust in him, I believe he's going to do it. Me, personally, he's one of those guys that he hangs his hat on his ability to go out there and make things happen. So I don't see him doing anything less than making that team come back to the prominence that it was a year and a half ago.
Now, yesterday, Anthony Beck played for him in Tampa Bay, was on the show, and he said Anthony said he was never more prepared than the 3 years he played for Gruden. He said every game he was more prepared than any other time he ever played. What is it about Gruden that has you guys – you're an offensive player, so how does he get you guys so prepared?
Oh, man, what he does in a game plan is phenomenal, but he breaks everything down why you're doing it, and that's the biggest thing. Most coaches say, all right, just run this. Gruden's not that type of guy. We're running this slogan route because we know these corners jump this route. That's why we're running this. But we're going to set it up. We're going to run 322 wide stick nod first to set this up. And when we set that up, I'm telling you what, this logo route is going to be wide open when we get to it. That's how he talks to us. That's how he prepared. In fact, my guy, Bobby Hoying, the year that he had that great year, it wasn't because of his ability to read defenses. People don't understand that Gruden used to tell him, all right, we got 2 jet all go. I want you to throw it to this guy on this play. I don't care if he's open in practice or not. You throw it there. A lot of the time, since we knew the defense knew our offense, they would pick it off. But in the games, it would be wide open because Gruden said, throw it to this guy every single time. And that's how Bobby Hoying was as good as he was.
Yeah.
If we had 322 wide stick nod, you throw it to the Y, which is the tight end, he's going to run a nod route. You throw it to him, period, point blank. I don't care what we're doing in practice. You throw it right there. And in a game-type situation, it will be open all the time. That's how good Gruden is. He understands defenses inside and out, and he used to tell him where to throw it. He would never give Bobby Hoying the ability to read the whole defense. He would cut it up into 1/4 and 1/4. Never the entire defense, and that's why he was good that time. That's how smart Gruden is.
You also played for Coach Cowher in Pittsburgh and won a Super Bowl down there. So you had talked a lot about how that team is kind of similar to this Eagles team, where Roethlisberger he wasn't Big Ben at that time. You guys were able to win a Super Bowl without a lot of contributions from your quarterback.
And it was built the same way this team is built. You know, we're talking about a team where we were like, all right, Dan, if we felt as though our edge was leaving, we would make the coach put us in full pads. And he would have to tell us to stop practicing so hard. I love the fact that this team went to him and said, look, we want to pack some pads. We're losing the edge. Our pads are getting high. We want to get back in the pads, get our physicality back so we can go out there and dictate the tempo. And that's what you need to do as a team if you feel your edge leaving. And that's exactly what they did. Our Cowher teams, it was times where he would be like, all right, guys, take the pads off. I'm tired of you guys hitting each other like that. Well, I see the same thing in these guys. And then, like I said, defense wins championships. Our defense won the championship. Those guys came to play, and the defense is what leads this team over there, now that Carson isn't here. They can't win a championship with a guy, because Ben Roethlisberger was just that, Ben Roethlisberger. He hadn't made the progression of Big Ben yet. That's why he didn't even throw a touchdown pass that game. In fact, Antoine Randall threw the touchdown pass to Hines Ward. So you have, in understanding that, the Eagles still have an opportunity to go out there and play well. They just have to make sure they cross their T's, dot their I's, keep out of the penalties, and make sure they stay consistent on offense. The defense will take care of themselves because sports will have those guys ready to roll.
Good stuff from Super Bowl champion Barrett Brooks. Eagles pre- and post-game live on Saturday on NBC Sports Philadelphia. He appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. All right, BB, we will talk to you on Monday, pal.
Take it easy, guys. Hey, man, get better, bro. Make sure you get better, Nick. Mike, don't get sick, bro.